You're on crack. You've lost your mind. Yeah, I was just angry at this point. I was angry. It was taking my time. I had things to be that I could have been doing.
Welcome to the Vicis Interimo 30 Minutes to Kill podcast.
Well, hello there.
Hi.
Sad. I thought you weren't there.
I didn't hear anything on my end. So.
There was, okay. There was just a big pregnant pause, and I was like, oh, well, all right.
Okay.
Don't say hi then. I don't know.
We're off to a wonderful start then.
Yes.
All righty. A wonderful start to what, you might ask?
The Vicis Interimo show.
That's right. You are listening to the Vicis Interimo show. 30 minutes to kill, more or less. A horror entertainment show featuring horror, suspense, and psychological thrillers. This is episode 254. And generally you can find us on Stitcher, iTunes, Podomatic, just about anywhere. Just type in a Vicis Interimo, Vicis Interimo. I am Michael Mad Saxon Jones here with my lovely wife and co-host Lori.
Yeah, that would be me.
We generally have 4 segments to each show. We have a Laid to Rest, a movie review, garbage in, garbage out, and we'll finish up with a Crawling Chaos. Laid to Rest is where we recap anything from old shows or anything we may have missed in previous podcasts. We have a review of our featured movie. This week's movie is Zombieworld. Garbage in, garbage out. We'll have several things to talk about, so we'll try to be brief with that. In general, it's anything that we've seen in TV, movies, books, or anything that we may have caught during that last week. And we end with a Crawling Chaos, a topic or factoid that we have never talked about on the show before, sometimes silly, sometimes serious, most always chaotic. So, do we start off by just saying that we're back to a regular type show after finishing up our...
Yes. Our regularly scheduled program?
Yes, that's right. Now that we've finished our H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival.
Boy, those are always painful. They feel painful anyway.
They feel painful to do. Hopefully they're not too painful to listen to. But at any rate, we are done and back on track. We mentioned it briefly during the last show that we're trying to get back on track here and stuff. We've had a couple of months of me working 6 days a week and this and that. So now that we have a full weekend being Sunday, Monday for me for the next month or so, and hopefully on into infinity. Well, that's not to say infinity, but for the foreseeable future is what we're hoping for.
Infinity and beyond?
Yeah. Well, at any rate, we'll be on a more regular schedule where we're putting them out on a weekly basis there. In the meantime, of course, you can always check out Night Chills Theater. And there's maybe another couple other podcasts that we would recommend. But in the meantime, let's get on with this show that we have right now, unless you have something else to add.
I don't.
Okay, let's start talking about Zombieworld and the fact that even Bill Oberst Jr. can't save, well...
No, he can't.
We'll get to that in a minute. There is some extenuating circumstances around this movie, but we'll get to that in a minute. First of all, what's our synopsis? Well, I'm just going to say really quick here that Zombieworld is a compilation of films or a zombie anthology that was put together by the folks at Dread Central and Ruthless Pictures. So it gave a lot of folks, well, I'm assuming, it gave a lot of folks a chance to get their zombie short films put together with sort of a wraparound story.
Yeah.
Loosely tie it all together.
Very loosely.
But once you're ready here with the synopsis, we'll talk about that and continue on from there.
Well, I've got it.
Okay.
This was from 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not rated. And it's a whole hour and 41 minutes. Even though it felt like 5 hours and 41 minutes.
Do you want some of that time back?
I do. Okay, there's nowhere to hide, nowhere to run. The zombie apocalypse has come, and our world now belongs to the dead. From Ireland, Canada, Australia, Europe, and all over the U.S., the bone-chilling news reports tell the same gruesome tale. Walking corpses terrorize and devour the living. This movie sucked. It was awful. Oh, and I was in the mood for, I was in the wrong mindset. I had no idea it was an anthology.
I disagree with you. I think you're wrong. I think this movie was lots of fun and should be watched by everybody.
You're on crack. You've lost your mind. I wrote on here that this movie had an identity crisis. I get that it's an anthology, so it's going to have a bunch of different things going. It was kind of like going to the H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival and watching a bunch of shorts.
Funny you should mention that,
but
yes.
They were too different. It was too hard to knit them together. They shouldn't have tried to knit them together in a news report, like coming to us from Canada, and then it's like this, and then coming to us from, West Virginia or whatever, and then and they weren't all like,
they weren't cohesive or
they weren't news stories, they weren't, what I mean?
You mean Jesus versus the cowboy zombies wasn't really tied in with...
Yeah, what was that? And it's funny because I actually wrote down every single one of them.
Oh,
I wrote
did?
A note on them.
I'm glad that you did, because I didn't.
Really? I
just sat back and checked my brain at the door and kind of watched it.
You kind of have to. I should have taken a nap.
Now, here's the thing. I disagree with you somewhat in that.
It's not my thing. It's not, I don't like mixing my comedy with horror either.
There were some high points and some not so high points. I'll give you that much.
I'm going to tell you my final notes I'm going to read first.
Okay.
Identity crisis, funny or no? Some funny films, but then some were serious and drawn out and boring. Who is this for? And some were arguably not even zombie stories. They didn't fit. Like, get rid of I'm sorry, Bill Oberst Jr., I love you. I do. But dump that dumb news report stuff in between each one. I would have liked it better if it was done like,
I can't wait to hear this.
What?
Go ahead. Continue. Because I want to know if you have the same note that I do. So many times we're boring because we say the exact same things. So yes, continue. What would you have rather had him do or say or...
Tales from the Crypt. Like...
How could that be wrong?
No, that would be right.
Oh, you're saying if you had done this... Oh, okay, that's interesting. Okay.
Through a comic book...
Well, there was actually one scene that featured that with the little girl's story that he did start out with a guy flipping through the comic at the postman flipping through the comic at the mailbox.
Yeah.
A little homage to the
that should have been like the glue that held all of these things together.
That would have worked.
It was a dumb idea. I'm sorry. Whoever had that idea, I'm sorry. Your idea was dumb. It didn't work as a newscast. They tried to, poor Bill, they made he gets bit at the beginning, so throughout the movie, he's kind of deteriorating. He pops in between to talk about the next thing that's coming up, and he looks
to tie it together.
A little worse each time we see him. Yeah, all of that should have been canned.
Okay, well, my suggestion, instead of canning that, was if that had just been written a little bit more cleverly. I would have liked to have seen a more subtle change because after the bite, shortly thereafter, he starts growling, resorts to profanity and stuff. Not that I'm offended by that, but it's just like, it seemed kind of like he was winging it there. Because I've seen him do good acting. We've seen other things. Like I said, we love him as an actor and so on. This felt rough. But I think, had this been a little bit more subtle and had he had a second person to play against, I think it could have been written much better to where he's slowly deteriorating and the newscaster sitting at the desk next to him doesn't quite know what's going on. Like, I feel like there could have been a stronger bit written in there to make it go.
Okay.
See, you're laughing already, so like maybe that could have worked. Are you just laughing at me?
No, I'm laughing at you. No.
Okay.
I don't want it to be a newscast because all of these things together didn't make sense as, you know, we're going out into the field and we're checking out what's going on in such and such. Okay, well, suddenly we're back in time and Jesus is raising Lazarus from the dead and he's a zombie and he's chasing everyone around and the whole thing is like, okay, would that be in the news? I don't know. I guess it would. If it was really happening, it would be in the news, but...
But it was happened. That was supposedly the first contact with these type of zombies. Though, if that were the case, I'm not sure what...
that would have been a long time ago.
And why there were cowboys there in the Middle East at this time. Yeah. So there was some identity crisis. So that's a tough thing about putting these things together.
It started good for me. That it was the best part. Nuclear plant explosion, fallout, people running, military chaos.
That's funny because that's what I didn't like when it started. The first thing I wrote, my first note here was, oh my God, are there only found footage movies left?
Oh, okay.
Because most everything that we do these days seems like found footage.
I had gone back and wrote that was the most exciting part after seeing everything else.
Okay.
Yeah. Because then we've got, our story with Jesus. Mm-hmm. All right. Raising our zombie Lazarus and the cowboys showing up.
Yes.
Yes. I wrote cowboys shooting at Jesus while Jesus is throwing fish as weapons.
So this was a good example of one that was so over the top that I enjoyed it, but it went on too long.
It was really long.
It went too long, and they recycled some footage and stuff to I'm not sure why.
That's not my
so that was my problem with that one, but it went on so long that it became entertaining, but then it got bad again.
Too much?
Yeah,
okay.
It just became too much.
There were three. I'm trying to look here. I might find a fourth one. There were 3 different, public service announcement, how to survive a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah. Definitely strong, I thought.
Okay. They were split up throughout the movie.
Mm-hmm.
We saw that one, after Jesus.
Yes.
And then, it went into, we were in Ireland, and all I wrote was monologue that drones on forever.
Oh.
Oh, it was the guy in the apartment talking to his friend laying on the ground, and I was just like, just shoot me. Maybe I didn't get it. I don't know.
I was going to say, yeah, because that's the one that ended with another punchline.
Was it not really long though?
It did go on again. It went on a little bit too long. That could have been trimmed up and stuff. My note here says it's no Shaun of the Dead.
Okay, because it had me. I was really trying to give this thing a chance, even after Jesus. I was still trying, and he was just talking, and it wasn't necessarily very clever or funny. So it was okay, this has got to be going somewhere, though.
Mm-hmm.
And, by the time we got there, I didn't care. I was just irritated.
I gotcha.
The next one, I'm sorry.
I was just going to interject a couple of notes before we get too far into this or whatever. One of my laugh out loud notes to myself, because not knowing what to expect, we sat down, we threw this on. We knew we were going to do it for the podcast, but I didn't know what we were in for. So immediately we start going into the fact that not knowing where it's going to go, we've got this newscast, we've got what it looks like the military thing, you know what I mean, with the meltdown of the power plant and so on. And I had made this note that where I lived and grew up as a kid was actually a military target. Talking about a nuclear strike, This was obviously in the 80s and stuff when we were more concerned about these type things with the